I mean, I don't want to use Brady light because I hate comparing guys like that. But, I mean, really, you saw a ton of terrific Tom in Brian Hoyer, man. He was very composed. But on the field, he's stronger. He's more, especially you saw the difference between day one and day two. Once he got a little bit of that comfort level of my knee's not going to get hit right away and I'm going to be able, and then boom, he looked so much better. But he really worked. And I've got to say this, for those of you guys that think people in Cleveland just love him because he's a hometown guy, think about these words. When Ray Farmer talked about being out there every day, working Ray Farmer hours, he's like, bro, I'm here more than anybody. Brian Hoyer was in this building almost as much as I was. Every time I turn around, Brian Hoyer was in the building working out, training, rehabbing, getting himself better. That's a level of dedication that not everybody has.
Yeah, that's true. And the other thing that people forget, too, is that, yeah, Brian Hoyer's been in the league for 4 years, but he's never been the man, and he's never played much. That stretch of three games last year when he, finally got the nod, that's his first 3 NFL games as a starting quarterback and going through it start to finish. It stands to reason that he's going to come back this year, better, certainly more experienced, even though it was a short span before he got hurt. That he would, know a little bit more, feel a little bit more confident. He's always had the ability to get rid of the ball quickly. That's one of those things that's always been sort of a hallmark of what he does well. So I don't think there's any surprise that he'd come in this year. And the other thing that bothers me a little bit, Jerry, is how people talk about, well, Manziel's behind because he's learning a new system.
So it's Hoyer.
Brian Hoyer's not learning a new system.
They both are.
They're both learning a new system, and one guy's just learning it better. So maybe it's possible that Hoyer spent a little bit more time with the playbook than Johnny has, but I can't say that for
I can tell you. Let me just tell you, I'm not gonna put a direct name to this, but coming from some people in the Browns over the weekend, I'm telling you that I don't know if anybody will put their name to this, but that was something that came out of mini camps. I'm not saying that John Manziel, yes, he came and showed, but that was one of the things that separated the gap. It wasn't just what they did on the field. I'm telling you, from the Browns, there were concerns about the preparation and actually a backslide. I heard from mini camp 1 and through on down, there was a bit of a regression in the preparation and the retaining of information in John Manziel, which they felt, which rightly or wrongly, he put himself out there to be public, to be traveling and doing things. They can equivalate to that. If you're not doing that, then they can't blame you for that. But it wasn't just the pictures. There was a bit of a regression. Nothing that can't be fixed and nothing that a lot of rookies don't go through. But there was actually some regression in Manziel in the early offseason stuff, which is all what led to them talking to him yesterday and them going about things the way they did. But that was stuff and that's where I say the Browns were professional all the way through with it, because they never said those things along the way. They could have very easily said, hey man, he showed up and he wasn't as good as he was 2 weeks ago or whatever. He didn't remember everything that we taught him 2 weeks ago. They didn't do that. They just said, hey, Johnny's showing up, doing all the rookie stuff like everybody else. But that is something that I was told there were some real concerns that he can fix it, but they needed to address it because they saw some actual detriment, and they attributed it to his I don't want to say partying all the time, because it's not like it's a 24/7 party, but they just attributed it to him not focusing the way you should as a professional, and that's basically what they said.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the transition from Texas A&M to Cleveland Browns is a little bit more of a steeper learning curve than the transition from last year's offensive coordinator to Kyle Shanahan, which is a transition that Hoyer's going through.
Even Manziel said it.
People pointed that out too over the weekend, that it was clear that Hoyer had a better grasp of the plays that were being called than Manziel did. There was confusion. You got to call a timeout, and so it wasn't just physical errors that were more common with Johnny: underthrowing, overthrowing, not making the right read, throwing a pick, whatever. It was the mental part of it. The play is called and Johnny doesn't know what to do. So certainly there's a better grasp of the playbook, and like I said, they're both learning a new system. It's just that Hoyer's better prepared, has a better preparation and more maturity to deal with it and to make it a smooth one.
And my last thing I'm going to say about John Manziel, because you guys know at the end of the day, I am pulling for him to be a good quarterback, because whether it's next year, next month, 2 years from now, he's going to be the quarterback of the Browns, barring a life-changing Super Bowl win by Brian Hoyer. He's gonna be the quarterback of the Browns at some point here in the future, whether it's near or distant. And all of this stuff that we're talking about, it's not. Some people would throw this out here just to stick their tongue out and go, Johnny Football, he's not what you thought he was. This is all the stuff that if his physical gifts are what we've seen him do in college, he takes all of this stuff, and you'll be able to see next year the difference. Because if he's the guy that you think he is, that Cleveland hopes he is, then this stuff turns him into a beast next year. He understands whether it's Hoyer, whether it's Connor Shaw, whether it's Vince Young. He knows that whoever comes into camp, he knows how he's going to have to prepare, how he's going to have to beat him, how he's going to have to be to become the starter. He's going to know the things that he doesn't know now, and then just maybe he can be as good as some people hyped him to be right off the bat.
Yeah, that's true. And we knew, you and I talked about it before the NFL draft, before Johnny Manziel was a Cleveland Brown, that we didn't want it to happen because we just foresaw the three-ring circus that would happen when and if the Browns drafted him. Now we're seeing that. It's not quite 3 rings yet. It's about 2.5. It's going to be 3 by the time they start playing games. But we also said back then, and I don't want to sit here and say I told you so, but I told you this, that the best thing that could possibly happen to the organization and for Johnny's long-term success is to have him, and to have the sort of the media frenzy die off would be to have him on the sidelines with a clipboard and a baseball cap for the 2014 season. That would pretty much take care of that media frenzy. If he's not out there running around, we're not going to have, highlights leading Sports Center every Sunday night of Johnny, and that's a good thing. Because I just think the best thing can happen for him and for all concerned is for him to be the guy, charting plays and keeping the headset on and watching what's going on and learning and have that, hopefully last through the entire 2014 season. That doesn't mean that we're going to get away from the other thing that I dreaded happening, and that is my fellow Brown season ticket holders, the people that sit around me every Sunday down on the lakefront, are just waiting for, Brian Hoyer's first interception to start the "We Want Johnny" chant. And I can predict that happening as soon as I can predict the sun rising tomorrow. It's going to happen, and I dread it happening, but it's going to happen sometime this year. Hoyer's going to screw up, and a bunch of guys with a few too many beers in them down at the stadium are going to start chanting for Johnny. And I just hope that doesn't have too much of a far-reaching effect on either player, Hoyer or Manziel.
I agree with you, but for those of you guys that were there this weekend, did you notice the difference in reactions, not just on day 1, but on day 2 as well? Because I was surprised that there was a much louder reaction for the beginning of the day Brian Hoyer than Manziel, even though Manziel's was definitely some mania too. But I was like, wow, Hoyer's got more friends here and more supporters here than I thought. But the Johnny Manziel reception was much more reserved as the days went on over the weekend, and rightfully so because of the way that they played. And I just think it's what we talked about. I think there's a lot of people that truly thought, and listen, if all you do is listen to sports talk radio and watch ESPN, you would have thought that guy was coming in as the best player on the entire Browns roster from the first day he walked into Berea. So there was a lot of people that said, man, so this isn't negative Nellies. He really is a work in progress. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with being a work in progress, as much as people hate that in today's instant gratification society, But
yeah, that's true. And even over the weekend, I saw some people, and again, these are, national guys that I just follow on Twitter, making it, the humbling of Johnny, which has obviously been a front office priority.
Yeah.
Almost from the get-go, the lowering of those expectations. He's not the savior. He's got a lot to learn, that kind of thing. And even the incident with there's this kind of perception from the national scope that the Browns are somehow mishandling Johnny
or holding him back.
Too tough on Johnny. They're dampening this spirit. Boy, Cleveland needs to have something uplifting and some hope. And here's the Browns throwing ice water on that fire. That's sort of been the tone of things, even to the point where they said, they sent him back. They wouldn't let him wear the neon or yellow shoes out there. They sent him back to the clubhouse. What a wet blanket organization this is. And you and I are sitting here as lifelong fans of the Browns, cheering the front office approach to this and the way they've handled it responsibly, thoughtfully, and you've got people in the national press that say, "Oh man, they're really just screwing this thing up left and right." So that's the narrative that we're getting from the people that are removed from it, that want Johnny to be the headliner, the savior of the franchise. Those of us with reality glasses on, we'd love to see Johnny be the savior of the franchise. We're just, a little bit more clear-headed about how soon that might happen.
I get a kick out of it, man, all weekend long. I was talking to somebody about this. I get tired of hearing Johnny Manziel's Cleveland Browns. I'm like, man, what other team does the backup quarterback get labeled as it's his team? Were they ever Tim Tebow's Denver Broncos, or were they Tim Tebow's New York Jets? I'm pretty sure that they weren't, but I mean,
I assume you're talking about the promotional spots that KNR 850 is running for their.
Oh, no. I'm talking Sports Center.
Because they're running Johnny Manziel is here. He's in.
No. I mean, on Sports Center all weekend as they would get to the Browns, when they were going around, the attachment to it was Johnny Manziel's Browns. You know what I mean? He's the notable, he's the one player that you attach to it,
Yeah, well, forget Joe Thomas and Josh Gordon and a few other, Pro Bowlers on the roster. But
last I checked, it was Jimmy Haslam's Browns. But I mean, hey, whatever, man. Listen, if you want to spend all of your time talking about the guy who's holding the clipboard, that's more power to you. And if that raises SportsCenter's ratings, go for it. Go for it, man.
Yeah, I suppose so.
Anyways, we'll talk. Obviously, we're going to have a lot more fun talking about the quarterbacks as they're the premier battle throughout this thing, but there's a lot of battles going on. Before we get to those, everybody, and I've had a dozen people in the last 10, 12 hours ask me, I don't have an answer for you, Jason Pinkston. I got a release from from the Browns and the lawyer. It actually, a joint statement from the Browns and an attorney's firm that just said, Jason Pinkston is not medically cleared to participate in football. The team has been in communication with him, and we respect their wishes not to provide any further details. The Browns are being absolutely close-lipped about it. I've got to think in my gut it ties into some of the health problems that he had before, perhaps with the blood clot. There's clearly some physically threatening reason why Jason Pinkston not only isn't playing, but Coach Pettin said we may not see him again. So this is obviously something serious.
Yeah, and speculation at this point is just that. And to a man, the people that I've heard talk about Pinkston really like the guy. Say he's
a great,
super good guy.
Yeah, I love him.
It's not a bad actor type situation. And I understand that Pinkston I don't follow many athletes at all on Twitter, but they say that Pinkston has tweeted out some things, tweeted out a Bible verse, tweeted out some thanks for the concern, basically declined to get into any further details other than to maybe suggest that some more information might be forthcoming. But, the guy's been a starting guard for this team, and this team needs capable guards like they need almost nothing else on the offensive side of the ball. And so you'd like to see him, come back and have a successful career, but certainly the Pettin suggesting that maybe he won't be back at all certainly is kind of foreboding and certainly cause for concern about the kid's well-being. You hope everything works out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I knew over the weekend it was health related. I could just tell by the way they were kind of pussyfooting around what they could say. And I'm like, no, this isn't football related. Football related injuries you're allowed to talk about. The ones that you're not allowed to talk about are the private health related issues. So clearly there's something going on here with him. And talking about injuries and stuff, let's hit on something else. The handful of guys, because I joked about Marcel Darius last week. Handful